The eternal motion of the northern nomads is not merely a migration, but a cyclic choreography dictated by the land, by centuries of experience etched into memory, and by the subtle language of nature. To the untrained eye, the tundra appears, empty, a void of snow and sky. But for those who have learned to read its surface, it is a palimpsest of movement, meaning, and life. The crust of snow might tell a story of last night's winds. The sharp line of a crack might mark a subsiding layer of permafrost, and a scattering of frozen droppings, nearly indistinguishable from the lichen beneath them, might indicate a herd that passed just hours earlier. This awareness is inherited, not taught in schools or books, but learned through time and shared breath, in the way a child watches an elder pause mid-step to feel the shift of the wind or press fingers to the earth and listen with their palms. This is literacy in the Arctic sense. The reindeer, central to this existence, are not simply beasts of burden or sources of food. They are kin, partners in survival. Their cycles become the nomad's calendar, their needs, the anchor of daily routines. In spring, when calving begins, the camps move to sheltered valleys where the wind is softened by ridges and the snow recedes first. Here, the ground births life. Tufts of moss and early shoots of sedge emerge in patches no larger than a handspan. The herders keep their distance, watchful but unobtrusive. Intervention is rare and always gentle. The belief is that nature knows its rhythm better than man. When predators circle, it is not always with hostility that the nomads respond. There is recognition in the gaze exchanged with a circling wolf, an old respect that balances between competition and kinship. Death is understood not as cruelty, but as necessity. Inside the chum, life is both intimate and infinite. The reindeer hides that line. The interior walls are dyed from smoke and age, holding the scent of generations. A single fire burns in the center, its smoke escaping through a vent at the top, curling in lazy spirals that leave soot on the poles above. Around it, life converges. Meals are prepared with efficiency born of scarcity. Every morsel is used. Dried meat and frozen fish are thawed beside the fire, softening enough to slice with the traditional Ural, curved knives that bear the marks of hands long gone. Tea is made by melting snow, sometimes flavored with pine resin or dried berries, gathered in the short, frantic summer months. The boiling pot becomes a communal center, its steam a lullaby that carries through conversations in low voices, stories shared, plans whispered, and sometimes long silences that say more than words. As the night deepens, and here, night can be months long, the snow outside glows with a blue luminescence. In the far distance, the yelping of foxes or the sharp call of a raven might punctuate the quiet. These are not interruptions, but acknowledgments, voices in a chorus that includes all beings. Children grow up immersed in this soundscape, their lullabies sung in ancient dialects, their toys carved from antler and softened leather. They learn to walk with quiet feet and sharp eyes. Education is holistic and omnipresent. The naming of stars during a walk, the recounting of ancestry by tracing the knot patterns on a grandmother's parka, the lesson on patience taught by watching a snare for days. The northern nomads exist in layers of time, each action echoing a past, each decision considering a future that stretches far beyond a single lifetime. Their worldview does not divide the spiritual from the material. Dreams are not dismissed as fancy, but as navigational tools. A herder might shift his camp based on a vision. A mother might change her child's name if a dream suggests it. Spirits of the land are addressed with offerings, bits of fat, strands of hair, or the whispered names of ancestors. In the tundra, everything has spirit, and respect is the currency of survival. Modern influences have reached even these distant stretches. Government programs, satellite schools, health outposts. Some nomads have mobile phones now, though signal is rare. Solar panels provide trickles of electricity. Still, the landscape resists enclosure. Attempts to urbanize the nomads or resettle them in permanent villages have met limited success. The land calls its people back, generation after generation. Even those who leave often return. They return for the silence that speaks, for the sky that reveals its secrets in pulses of aurora, for the snow that remembers every footstep. The Ural Mountains, those jagged sentinels that cut the continent in two, remain unchanged. Their slopes, carved by time and softened by snow, hold the bones of mammoths and the trails of future herders. At their feet, the permafrost guards its secrets, yielding slowly now as the world warms. The nomads know this change not by graphs or satellites, but in the migration of birds, in the way the river ice cracks earlier each year, in the shifts of moss on reindeer trails. They adapt, not with panic, but with patience. This is not the first change they have weathered. And so they continue, these keepers of rhythm and memory. Their lives are not relics of the past, but blueprints for a future where humanity remembers how to live with, rather than against, the world. In the face of mechanized speed, they offer slowness. In a world of noise, they offer listening. In an age of excess, they offer precision and restraint. The wind across the tundra is not just cold, it is a voice. And if you are quiet long enough, you will hear it speak. Here in the north, where the land remains frozen for much of the year and the light is fleeting, the very concept of time becomes fluid, dictated not by calendars or clocks, but by the migration of herds, the rhythm of snowstorms, and the waxing and waning of firelight in the heart of the chum. For the nomads, time is not an abstract construct, but a lived, tangible cycle. One where every breath is measured against the breath of the land, and every movement is in concert with the natural pulse of the earth. Within this boundless landscape, education is an intergenerational pursuit, passed down not through textbooks but through participation, repetition, and storytelling. A child learns not from rote but from action, from tying knots with cold, stiffened fingers, from tracking reindeer through snowdrifts sculpted by the wind, from listening as elders recount the stars' secrets or the tale of the river that once flowed backward during the Great Freeze. Their minds become libraries of lore, storing lessons embedded with generations of adaptive genius. Even the language spoken in these frozen realms bears the texture of the environment. Words for snow are not mere descriptors, but rich, layered concepts that capture its temperature, density, age, and movement. A drift that clings to a tree has a different name from the wind-blown crust hiding a hollow. This linguistic precision is not ornamental, it is survival. Knowing whether the snow is soft enough to dig or hard enough to carry weight can mean the difference between life and death when setting camp or fleeing a storm. The culture is steeped in animism, in which every element of the natural world is alive with spirit and intention. A gust of wind is not simply weather, it is a whisper from the mountain. The flicker of a flame in the chum may be the breath of a guiding ancestor. This worldview shapes not just rituals, but daily decisions. Before felling a larch for sled, runners, a blessing must be spoken. When burying a stillborn calf, its spirit is honored with songs to guide its return in the next life. These practices are not superstition, but a deep moral code, a commitment to reciprocity with the land. The seasons govern all, but winter reigns supreme. The cold is not a force to be defeated, but a teacher to be respected. The nomads know its curriculum. Well, how to read the language of hoarfrost, how to prepare moss for insulation, how to store blood in ice for emergency nourishment, how to build a fire that resists wind without revealing one's location to predators, both animal and human. Every ember, every gesture, every silence holds meaning. There is no space for waste, no room for frivolity, yet within this discipline lies an unmatched elegance, a grace born of necessity and honed over millennia. Despite the encroachment of Modern technologies, snowmobiles, satellite phones, and synthetic fabrics, the core of this life has not changed. These tools are adopted pragmatically, never as replacements for ancestral methods, but as augmentations. A hunter may use a GPS to find his way back to camp, but he still places his trust in the wind's scent, the crow's call, the shimmer of distant ice that signals open water. Likewise, a solar-powered lamp might hang inside the chum, but the fire remains central, a hearth not only of heat, but of memory, identity, and shared humanity. The food, too, is an encyclopedia of resilience. Beyond tilpy and boiled organs, meals consist of dried fish preserved in wind shelters, fermented reindeer milk, raw marrow scooped from frozen bones, and tundra berries sun-dried and stored in birch bark containers. During lean months, every sinew is boiled, every tendon gnawed for its last reserve of fat. Even the bones are crushed and added to stews. Nothing is wasted, and nothing is taken for granted. Eating is both a sacrament and a science, a daily affirmation of the delicate contract between the people and the animals who give their lives. In this nomadic existence, the reindeer is not merely a beast of burden, it is kin, compass, and currency. Reindeer provide transport, clothing, food, and shelter. Their antlers are carved into tools, their tendons spun into thread, their hides into canoes and winter coats. The bond between herder and herd is intimate and ancestral. Each animal known by name, behavior, and lineage. Births are celebrated, deaths mourned. If a predator takes one, the spirit of the loss is acknowledged and its story passed down. Yet even this relationship faces new threats. Climate change shifts the timing of thaws, upends migration patterns, and opens the tundra to outside interest, miners, poachers, and developers. Permafrost melts expose ancient pathogens, and southern diseases find their way north, carried by migratory birds and imported livestock. The nomads, ever adaptive, now face a challenge not just of weather or scarcity, but of uncertainty, of disruption to the invisible threads that tie their knowledge to the rhythms of a changing world. Still, they persist. Elders who once resisted the use of metal traps now teach youth how to combine modern snares with traditional tracking. Young herders stream music to smartphones while sewing muclucs using sinew passed down from their grandmothers. The line between old and new is not rigid but fluid, like the snow that softens and hardens with the wind. This adaptability is not abandonment of tradition, but its evolution, a living culture walking beside the past, not behind it. The Ural Mountains, for their part, remain constant and enigmatic. Snow swirls across their summits as it has for millennia, and their ravines cradle secrets from forgotten epochs. In spring, meltwater trickles down into valleys where bones of woolly rhinoceroses still lie buried beneath peat. In midsummer, rare blooms press their heads through the tundra crust, scenting the air with brief but potent sweetness. And in winter, the silence deepens until even thought feels muffled, until the only sound is the heartbeat of fire, the whisper of wind across ice, and the soul song of those who dwell in this realm of endurance and reverence. In the vast stretches of the northern Urals and the tundra that laps against its flanks, the silence of winter is never truly silent. Beneath the endless mantle of snow, beneath the compacted layers of frost and ice that conceal the pulse of the land, a rhythm hums, a quiet persistence that beats within every living being that calls this domain home. The nomads who traverse this land do so not in defiance of nature, but in a delicate harmony with it. As if each movement through the snowdrifts, each footfall over frozen earth, is in answer to a call that predates memory itself. The Ural Mountains, ancient and scarred, rise like sleeping titans whose backs are coated with centuries of ice and time. These mountains are neither forbidding nor inviting. They are simply there, immutable, marking a liminal space between east and west, past and present, known and unknowable. The people who move among them, the Mansi, the Kanti, the Komi, and other indigenous reindeer herding groups, have never considered these lands hostile. They are rather formative. It is the land that shapes the soul, teaches resilience, and demands attentiveness. There is no space for arrogance in the face of the Ural winter. Here, humility is not virtue, but survival. The homes of these nomads, the chum, resemble yurts in shape but differ in soul. Crafted from reindeer hide stretched over frames of bent larch, they are marvels of efficient engineering, light enough to carry, strong enough to endure winds that howl like wolves denied prey. Within these temporary sanctuaries, life pulses warmly. Fires fed by birchwood crackle in iron stoves at the center, their smoke funneled through conical roofs to vanish into the heavens. The walls of the chum do not merely protect against the cold. They hold the history of countless migrations, the scent of cured hides and the gentle echoes of lullabies sung in ancient tongues. Reindeer are not simply beasts of burden here. They are companions, currency, sustenance, and guides. To understand tundra nomadism is to understand the reindeer, whose instincts are finely tuned to the subtle signals of the earth. A herder does not command so much as accompany. They move in step with the herd, watching as the animals nose through snow to find the nutrient-rich lichen below. Reindeer meat is eaten roasted, dried, or raw in thin, frozen slices. The blood, rich in iron, is stirred into soups or mixed with berries to make nourishing drinks. The hides become clothing and shelter, the sinews thread, and the bones tools. In the Arctic, there is no waste, only the careful transformation of gift into necessity. The tundra appears to the outsider as an empty sheet of white, yet it is, in truth, densely written with the language of survival. Tracks of Arctic foxes trace the snow like calligraphy. The sudden shadow of a gerfalcon spreads meaning across the ground. Nomadic children are taught from an early age to interpret this script, to read the sagging of ice as a warning, to know by the shape of snowdrift where the wind has traveled, to judge the age of caribou by their antlers half buried in snow. These are not superstitions, but encyclopedic knowledge systems encoded over generations, oral traditions more durable than parchment. As dusk merges seamlessly with dawn in the long polar night, the world enters a suspended twilight. Here, artificial time dissolves into the slow unfolding of seasonal change. Food is preserved not with refrigeration, but with exposure. Fish caught and immediately frozen upon extraction from ice holes. Meat stored in skin bags buried beneath. Snowbanks. Techniques once observed in passing now reveal their genius. Mushrooms dried on birch racks. Cranberries kept fresh by submersion in spring water sealed in birch bark. Moss used as sterile dressing for wounds. Modernity has approached this world not with full force, but with tentative curiosity. Snowmobiles, solar panels, GPS units, and satellite phones are integrated where they serve, but never as replacements for knowledge passed from hand to hand. A plastic sled might glide more easily over ice, but its user will still learn to sense the creak of weak crust or the bitter smell of an approaching frost front. In the land of the Ural nomads, technology is only useful when it serves ancient ways, not supplants them. Elders still gather around fires to chant epics older than modern states. These are not stories, but cosmologies, the creation of the world, from reindeer sinew and sky ice. The tale of a boy who became a bear to guide his people through an endless winter. The songs of birds who once whispered to shamans in the form of winds. Birch bark drums echo these myths, not merely as performance, but as invocation. They call upon ancestors not as history, but as presence, a line unbroken, a lineage alive. And then there are the seasons. While outsiders know only the dichotomy of winter and not winter, the nomads speak of 7 or 9 distinct phases of cold. There is the time of first frost, when the rivers still murmur beneath thin glass, the time of crackling crusts, when steps leave no print, the time of hoarfrost, when trees glitter with ice flowers. Each season brings its own rhythms. When to butcher, when to move, when to settle, when to wait. Even the aurora borealis, that haunting dance of ionized sky, is not just beauty, but message. Omens, warnings, reminders of things yet to be known. All. This knowledge lives in motion. The landscape itself teaches endurance and impermanence in equal measure. A camp dismantled in hours leaves behind no trace but smoke caught in pine needles. A sled track, visible one moment, vanishes with a gust. The very heart of Ural nomadism is this impermanence, not as loss but as liberation. To move lightly is to remain free. To carry nothing that cannot be replaced by snow or spirit is to understand the true weight of the world. This is the land, where the old gods have not died but changed their forms. They reside in elk that vanish into fog, in the rustle of snow sliding from branches, in the hush before a blizzard. They speak through the bones of animals, through the paths of birds, through the creaking timbers of icebound trees. And those who live here, wrapped in reindeer hide, hands hardened by work, eyes adjusted to twilight, listen still. They do not need temples, for the earth is altar. They do not need books, for their footsteps write scripture. To the modern, theirs may seem a vanishing world. But within the beating heart of each chum, in each snow-buried trail, in each drumbeat that echoes against the frozen flanks of the Urals, this world endures, not as relic, but as revelation. These same northern skies, often mistaken for desolate voids, are to the nomads an ever-changing canvas of signs. Each cloud's drift, the manner in which snow gathers around a tree trunk, or the subtle gleam on a distant ridge serves as a cue. Reading this world is not a choice, but a necessity, an art passed down not in books, but in lived moments, observations, and trial. Snowfall, which outsiders may measure merely in centimeters or inches, is instead understood by quality. Whether it is powdery and dry, suitable for insulating a chum's base, or heavy with moisture, a signal that a brief thaw may occur. The nomads can differentiate the whisper of snow falling on pine needles from that falling on open ground, and know by feel whether the ice underfoot is black, blue, or white, a distinction that marks the difference between life and falling, through into frigid waters. The clothing that adorns their bodies is not fashion, but legacy and function woven together. Each garment tells a story not only of its maker, but of the landscape itself. An inner tunic of reindeer hide worn with the fur against the skin ensures warmth, while an outer layer with fur facing outward repels snow and wind. Seams are stitched with sinew rather than thread, as sinew contracts when wet, sealing the garment tighter, another silent inheritance of evolutionary insight. Gloves are separate from sleeves, with flared cuffs designed to catch snow before it reaches the wrists, and hoods are tailored to form tight ovals around the face, directing breath downward to prevent frostbite. These are not clothes. They are armor born from intimacy with the Arctic's cruelty. Each member of the community is vital, and none are idle. Women tan hides using ancient recipes, urine to soften, bone tools to scrape, smoke to preserve. Children, long before their hands can grasp knives or shape sled parts, are trained to observe. They learn that playing too near the edge of a frozen lake invites spirits of the deep to notice them. They are taught stories not as fantasy, but as coded wisdom, cautionary tales encoded in mythology to embed survival lessons into memory. One tale speaks of the blue-eyed fox who leads reckless children into snowdrifts from which they never return. Another speaks of the mountain with no shadow, a peak cursed because a greedy hunter killed more reindeer than his family could eat, and the spirits took away the sun from him forever. Elders carry within them not just personal memory, but cultural geographies. They can recall the contours of migration routes used by great-great-grandparents, and they track patterns of snowfall over decades to decide whether this year's reindeer movement will shift north or south. They understand the tundra not as wilderness, but as a living document whose margins are written in ice crystals and whose footnotes lie in moss rings and wind-bent shrubs. They tell of times when the reindeer refused to move, sensing danger from the wind alone. And sure enough, blizzards buried the land for weeks. Such occurrences are not superstition, but empirical records, the lore of a land rarely charted by outsiders. The integration of new technologies is not a rupture, but an adaptation. Radios transmit not only weather forecasts, but songs recorded by distant cousins from other clans, maintaining ties across the endless distances. Headlamps replace oil lamps when seal oil is scarce, and metal fishhooks ride alongside bone ones in the same tackle box. Nomads adopt what serves them and reject what does not. A snowmobile may carry them swiftly to a distant outpost, but only if it starts in the cold. Its engine becomes a liability in deep freeze, where diesel gels and spark plugs crack. In such moments, the old ways reassert their value. A sled pulled by reindeer will not fail if fed and respected. A chum cannot short-circuit, and its hide. Walls do not collapse when the wind screams. They breathe, flex, and bend. The relationship with animals is not one of domination, but kinship. Reindeer are not simply transport or meat. They are partners in migration. They are named, spoken to, and in times of hunger, apologized to when taken for food. Dogs are not pets, but collaborators, bred for centuries to understand the rhythms of the herd and the perimeter of a campsite. A good dog knows when to bark and when silence matters more, when a bear passes nearby or a stranger approaches from afar. Their loyalty is not trained, but earned through shared hardship and mutual respect. Falcons, too, are sometimes kept, trained to hunt in silence, their eyes more acute than any human's, capable of spotting ptarmigan under a camouflage of snow-speckled feathers. The nomad's food is not sparse, but strategic. Every part of the animal is used. Bone for tools, fat for lamps, blood for thickening soups. The marrow from reindeer limbs is prized, sweet, rich in calories, and stored in birch containers buried beneath the snow for preservation. Mosses are boiled into teas, not only for hydration, but for their medicinal properties. There is no waste. Even fish bones are ground into powder and added to stews. Seasonal treats exist. Wild berries frozen, mid-ripeness, picked from slopes where the sun lingers longer. Honey traded from the south is consumed with ceremony, a luxury beyond imagining in a world where nothing blooms for months. Even the snow becomes a tool. Hard-packed snow is carved into shelves, benches, and windbreaks. Water is extracted not by melting any snow, but by knowing which layers are cleanest. Surface snow blown by the wind may carry soot from distant factories. Clean snow is often found nestled under overhangs where the wind cannot reach, preserved like sugar. Ice blocks, carved from lake surfaces, are used not only for building but for storing food, natural freezers that maintain a temperature ideal for long preservation without spoilage. Spirituality here is omnipresent, but subtle. It resides in everyday actions, the way food is offered to the fire before meals, the placement of sleds facing east during festivals, the whispered greetings to the wind each morning. Nomads do not build temples because the entire land is sacred. A mountaintop may be visited once a decade, but its name is spoken daily with reverence. The tundra is not empty. It is full of presences. Spirits live in the fog, the ice, the shadows. One does not curse the wind, for it may carry that curse back into your tent. Instead, one asks, explains, reasons with it. The relationship with the land is one of negotiation, not conquest. Time itself moves differently. With the sun absent for weeks, days are marked by ritual, not by clocks. The boiling of the morning broth, the walk around the herd, the mending of nets, each becomes a timepiece. The return of the light is celebrated with fire, dance, and stories told anew as if they are being spoken for the first time. Memory stretches not backward, but outward, held in song, carving, motion. This continuity forms an unbroken thread, from ancient ancestors who once watched mammoths roam the plains to today's children who build snow forts with GPS coordinates in their pockets. What might seem to the outsider as extreme hardship is instead a profound dialogue with existence. The cold is not punishment. It is clarity. The silence is not loneliness, but space to think. Here, life's margins are thin, but within those margins exists a depth of meaning and a fullness of connection rarely found elsewhere. The North strips away illusion and leaves only essence. And the nomads, wrapped in fur, surrounded by wind and white, continue to walk the same paths their ancestors carved, one slow, deliberate step at a time, outlasting the cold, outlasting empires, outlasting time itself. As the seasons cycle, with the unyielding winters offering no respite from the land's starkness, the Chukchi people thrive, embracing both their heritage and the challenges that the land demands. Their strength is not just physical, but spiritual, as the land calls them to endure, and they respond with an unwavering commitment to their way of life. The Arctic, with its brutal beauty, is not merely a backdrop, but a living force, shaping them in ways that are as much emotional as they are practical. The winters may be long, but they are not lonely. They are a time for unity, for sharing stories, and for celebrating survival. The arrival of summer, though fleeting, is a moment of profound change. The days stretch long, and the soft glow of the midnight sun offers a brief reprieve from the harshness of winter's grip. It is during these brief months that the nomads turn their attention to the reindeer herds once more, guiding them across the tundra in search of new grazing grounds. But even here, survival demands an intimate knowledge of the land, where the best grasses grow, where the winds will be most favorable, and where the herds might be tempted to wander. The summer months also mark a time for gathering supplies, preparing hides for the coming winter, and replenishing food stores that will carry them through another cycle of dark months. The arrival of the first snow, however, is never a moment of dread. For the nomads, the snow is a part of their life, woven into the very fabric of their existence. It is a familiar companion, one that signals the return of the animals and the need for heightened vigilance. The nomads watch the sky, reading the clouds, observing the wind, waiting for the first hints of the coming storm. And when the snow does finally fall, blanketing the world in pristine white, they are ready. Their sleds are packed, the reindeer are harnessed, and their homes are made secure. The long nights and endless days of winter may be a challenge, but they are a challenge that the nomads embrace, knowing that the strength to face them is born from the very land they call home. Survival here is not about conquering the land. It is about living in harmony with it. The nomads are keen observers of the ecosystem around them, knowing that the balance of nature is delicate. The wolves that prowl the edges of their camps are not seen as enemies, but as part of the same delicate web of life. The rivers that freeze in the winter are not simply obstacles to cross. They are ancient, flowing arteries that sustain the life of the tundra. The birds that migrate through their camps are not fleeting visitors. They are messengers, carrying the stories. Of far-off lands, the Chukchi people understand that they are not separate from nature. They are a part of it, and their survival depends on respecting the cycles of the earth, the sky, and the creatures they share the land with. As the years pass and the world outside the tundra changes, the nomads continue to adapt. Technology, once an unwelcome intruder, has become a tool, integrated into the fabric of their lives. Solar panels provide power to their radios and satellite phones, allowing them to keep in contact with the wider world, while snowmobiles and all-terrain vehicles offer faster means of transportation across the vast landscape. But these modern conveniences do not replace the wisdom of the old ways. They supplement it, providing additional tools in the ongoing struggle for survival. The nomads continue to rely on their knowledge of the land, their understanding of the wind, the ice, the animals, and the seasons. Because it is this knowledge that has sustained them for generations. Despite the advancements in technology, the Chukchi people remain connected to their ancestors in ways that are both spiritual and practical. The stories of their forebears, passed down through generations, continue to guide them. The rituals and ceremonies that mark the passage of time are still honored, offering a sense of continuity in a world that is changing rapidly. The elders continue to teach the younger generation how to read the land, how to listen to the wind, and how to respect the animals that share their world. They remind the youth that survival is not just about physical strength. It is about understanding the land, knowing how to live in harmony with it, and passing down that knowledge to future generations. In many ways, the Chukchi people live in the same world as their ancestors did hundreds of years ago. The land may have changed, the tools may be different, and the challenges may be greater, but the core principles of survival remain unchanged. The nomads still rely on their reindeer for transportation, food, and clothing. They still live in chums, their portable homes made from reindeer hides and larch poles. They still follow the herds, moving with the seasons and the animals, and they still rely on the ancient wisdom passed down through the generations to guide them. But even as the Chukchi people maintain their traditional way of life, they are not immune to the forces of change. The world outside the tundra has become increasingly interconnected, and the pressures of modernization are felt even in the most remote corners of the Arctic. Climate change, resource extraction, and global economic forces are reshaping the world around them. The once pure waters of the rivers are now tainted by pollutants. The migration patterns of the reindeer are shifting due to warming temperatures, and the seasons no longer follow the rhythms they once did. The nomads are aware of these changes, and they are adapting, but they are also resolute in their commitment to the land and their way of life. They know that they are stewards of a fragile ecosystem, and they are determined to preserve the delicate balance that has sustained them for millennia. In the face of these challenges, the Chukchi people remain a testament to resilience and adaptability. They have survived in the harshest of environments, adapting to the rhythms of the land and the changing seasons, and they will continue to do so, drawing strength from the deep connection they share with the land, the animals, and each other. Their story is one of survival, not just of the body, but of the spirit. A reminder that even in the most inhospitable places on Earth, life persists, and it is in our connection to the land that we find our true strength. The future of the Chukchi nomads remains uncertain, as it does for many indigenous peoples around the world. Yet in their ability to adapt, to survive, and to remain deeply connected to the land, they embody a timeless truth, that the strength to survive is not found in the power of technology, but in the enduring wisdom of those who have learned to live with the land, not against it. The Chukchi, like the land they inhabit, remain unyielding, standing resilient against the forces of nature and time, continuing their journey through the vast white expanse of the Arctic tundra. In the silence of the Arctic winter, the world seems to be held in a delicate balance. For the Chukchi, it is a world of perpetual motion. Even during the most brutal months, they are never still, always on the move, following the reindeer herds, ensuring the survival of their people and their traditions. This ceaseless movement is not just physical, it is spiritual, a sacred duty that binds them to the land. They are not conquerors of the Arctic, they are its caretakers, and in this relationship, they find their purpose. At night, the sky above the tundra is a mesmerizing canvas of stars, twinkling with ancient light. It is a reminder of the vastness of the world they inhabit, a place where humans are but small players in an eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. The Chukchi look to the stars for guidance, reading them like a map of their ancestors' journeys. The constellations are not merely patterns of light in the sky, they are a living history, a record of those who came before. The stories of these stars are passed down through generations, and they serve as a reminder of the connection between the land, the people, and the cosmos. These stories are told around the fires at night, as the wind howls outside, and they are woven into the fabric of everyday life. Each star is a beacon, guiding them home, leading them through the darkness of winter and into the light of spring. As the long, cold months stretch on, the nomads rely on their deep understanding of the land to survive. The tundra may appear desolate, but it is teeming with life. The animals, adapted to the harsh conditions, are experts at finding food in the most unlikely places. The reindeer, with their hooves honed to dig through the deep snow, are the lifeblood of the Chukchi people. Their meat sustains them through the winter, while their fur and hides provide warmth and shelter. The nomads use every part of the reindeer, honoring its sacrifice by ensuring nothing goes to waste. Even the bones are used, crafted into tools and ornaments that carry the stories of the people. The relationship between the Chukchi and their reindeer is one of mutual respect. The nomads do not see the animals as mere resources to be exploited, but as companions, integral to their way of life. The herds are followed, not driven, and the nomads move with them in a dance of survival. The rhythms of the land and the animals are one, a continuous cycle that has endured for millennia. It is this relationship, this deep understanding of the land and its creatures, that allows the Chukchi to thrive in a place that would seem inhospitable to most. The challenges they face are not limited to the land alone. The Arctic is a place where the elements can change in an instant. Storms can whip through the tundra with little warning, and temperatures can plummet to lethal lows. But the Chukchi are not deterred. They have learned to read the signs of the weather, to anticipate the coming storms, and to prepare for the worst. They know that survival depends not only on physical endurance, but on the ability to adapt quickly to the unpredictable nature of the Arctic environment. The tools they use are simple but effective, honed by centuries of trial and error. The sleds, drawn by reindeer, are built to withstand the harsh conditions, designed to glide effortlessly over the snow. The clothing they wear, made from reindeer hides, is carefully crafted to provide maximum warmth while allowing for freedom of movement. The knives they carry, with blades made from sharpened bone or steel, are essential for hunting, skinning, and survival. Every tool, every item, has a purpose, a reflection of the practical wisdom passed down through generations. But it is not just the tools that define the Chukchi way of life. It is their ability to adapt, to live in harmony with the land, and to honor the traditions of their ancestors. In a world that is constantly changing, they remain steadfast in their commitment to their way of life. They are not simply surviving, they are thriving, finding joy in the beauty of the land, in the rhythm of the seasons, and in the strength of their community. Even as the modern world encroaches on their way of life, the Chukchi remain resolute. They have learned to embrace new technologies, but they do so on their own terms. The snowmobiles that now accompany the reindeer sleds, the satellite phones that allow them to communicate with the outside world, and the solar panels that provide power to their camps, all of these are tools, not replacements. They are still the stewards of the land, still bound by the same principles that have guided them for generations. As the world continues to change, so too does the Arctic. The ice is melting, the seasons are shifting, and the land that has sustained The Chukchi for thousands of years is no longer the same. But the nomads are not afraid of change. They face it with the same resilience, the same strength that has always defined them. They are a people who have lived in the most hostile land on Earth and thrived. And they will continue to do so, adapting to whatever the future holds, while remaining steadfast in their commitment to the land, to their reindeer, and to each other. The Chukchi are a testament to the endurance of the human spirit. In the face of extreme adversity, they have not only survived, they have flourished. Their way of life is a living example of resilience, of the deep connection between humans and the natural world, and of the power of tradition to guide us through even the most challenging times. The Arctic, with its frozen winds and endless snow, may seem like the edge of the world, but for the Chukchi, it is home. And no matter how the world changes, they will continue to call it their own, living in harmony with the land and the creatures that share it with them. The Chukchi's connection to the land extends beyond survival. It is a spiritual bond, a deep-rooted understanding of the forces that shape their world. In the vast expanse of the tundra, where human presence feels insignificant against the backdrop of the endless white, they find meaning in the most subtle signs. The change in wind direction, the behavior of animals, the appearance of the sun, these are not random occurrences. They are omens, messages from the land, the spirits, and the ancestors. The Chukchi believe that the land is alive, that the mountains and rivers, the wind and snow are imbued with the spirits of their forebears. This belief guides their interactions with the environment. They don't exploit the land, they coexist with it, acknowledging its power and its wisdom. Central to their spiritual practices is the belief in the forces of nature and the elements. Their relationship with the elements is not one of dominance, but of respect. The reindeer, for instance, are seen as sacred animals, vital to their survival and, more importantly, to their connection with the land. The herd is not just a source of food and clothing, it is a symbol of the balance between humans and nature. The Chukchi understand that their fate is tied to the herds, and so they treat the animals with reverence, ensuring that they are not overhunted and that their numbers remain strong. This sustainable approach is key to the survival of both the reindeer and the nomadic way of life. The rituals surrounding the reindeer are deeply spiritual. Before a hunt, the nomads offer prayers, asking for permission from the spirits of the animals. They make offerings to the spirits of the land and the ancestors, thanking them for the resources they have been granted. The meat and fur of the reindeer are treated with the utmost care and respect, and every part of the animal is used. In this way, the Chukchi honor the life that sustains them, ensuring that nothing is wasted and that the reindeer continue to thrive in the land they share. But even as they continue their age-old practices, the Chukchi have faced significant changes in recent decades. The encroachment of modernity, with its roads, cities, and technological advances, has brought both challenges and opportunities. While the nomads continue to rely on their traditional ways of life, they have also embraced certain modern conveniences, recognizing the need to adapt without losing their cultural identity. The introduction of snowmobiles, satellite phones, and other technologies has altered the pace of their lives, but has not fundamentally changed the essence of their existence. These tools are used as extensions of their way of life, not as replacements for it. The balance between tradition and modernity is delicate, and the Chukchi continue to navigate this complex landscape, determined to preserve their heritage while embracing the advantages that modernity offers. Yet with these changes come threats. The melting of the Arctic ice, the shifting patterns of wildlife migration, and the warming temperatures are all signs of a changing world. The very environment that has supported the Chukchi for millennia is shifting beneath their feet. The land that was once a reliable source of sustenance is becoming increasingly unpredictable. The reindeer herds are moving into new areas, and the food sources are becoming scarcer. The thawing of the permafrost is releasing carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere, contributing to global warming and further destabilizing the delicate balance of the Arctic ecosystem. The Chukchi are not passive in the face of these changes. They are acutely aware of the shifting climate, and they are actively seeking ways to adapt to the new challenges. Their traditional knowledge, passed down through generations, is a valuable resource in understanding the changing environment. They have long been experts in reading the land and the weather, and their ability to adapt to shifting conditions will be crucial in navigating the future. The Chukchi are not just survivors. They are innovators, constantly finding new ways to live in harmony with the land even as it changes. The question of how the Chukchi will continue to thrive in a rapidly changing Arctic is one that faces not only their community, but the entire world. Their way of life, rooted in the ancient rhythms of the land, is under threat from forces far beyond their control. Yet, the resilience and adaptability that have defined the Chukchi for centuries remain their greatest strengths. As the world changes, they continue to live as they always have, guided by the spirits of the land, the wisdom of their ancestors, and their unwavering connection to the reindeer and the tundra. The future of the Chukchi is not written in the stars. It is being forged in the snow. The challenges they face are immense, but so too is their capacity for survival. They are not just enduring. They are adapting, innovating, and finding new ways to live in harmony with the land that has sustained them for thousands of years. The Arctic may be a hostile environment, but for the Chukchi, it is home. And in the face of adversity, they will continue to call it their own. Their story is one of resilience, of a deep connection to the land and the creatures that share it with them. It is a story of survival, of overcoming the harshest conditions on Earth and thriving in the most unforgiving environment imaginable. It is a story that spans millennia, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of tradition. And it is a story that continues, written in the footprints left behind in the snow, in the songs sung around the fire, and in the hearts of the Chukchi people who endure the trials of the Arctic and emerge stronger for it. In the end, the Chukchi are more than just survivors. They are a living reminder of the enduring power of human ingenuity and adaptability. Their way of life, born from the harshest conditions on Earth, is a beacon of hope for a world that often seems to be losing its connection to the natural world. As the Arctic continues to change, the Chukchi will continue to stand, unwavering, in their commitment to the land, the reindeer, and each other. Their story is far from over. It is a story that will continue to be written with each step taken on the snow, each song sung by the fire, and each generation that carries forward the traditions of their ancestors.